name is Emily, and I am Adam's oldest sister, and this is Natalie, one of his younger ones. Our brother Adam was something of a miracle baby. For those of you who don't know, Adam was a twin. His twin, our sister Hope, passed away when our mom was 6 months pregnant with them. And to ensure Adam's safe birth, Mom carried them both to delivery. And what a delivery it was. He was a very active baby in the womb, and 2 weeks before he was due, my mom went in for a routine check only for the doctor not to find Adam's heartbeat. They rushed her into an emergency C-section just in time to deliver him safely. He had managed to get 2 knots tied in his umbilical cord and then wrapped it around his neck for good measure. Adam's birth was a day of so many emotions. The fear we had almost lost him, along with his twin, mixed with the incredible relief when he was delivered healthy, large, and screaming into this world. The grief for our little Hope, who was born resting peacefully in the arms of Jesus. But the strongest emotion of all was the joy that cannot be dimmed when a new life is brought into the world, and what joy and energy Adam Samuel Gibson would bring with him. For many of you here today in attendance, my brother was an officer, a Marine veteran, a leader, a hero, a friend. And he was all those things to us as well, but before he was a big, giant, tough guy whose massive presence could fill the entire doorway, he was just our Adam Sam, our little sunshine bright. White, blonde, wispy hair that he was constantly twirling and never stopped twirling, even into adulthood. Rosebud lips and tiny little frame that would shrink to almost nothing if he got sick for more than a day. He was a mama's boy through and through, hiding behind her skirts in a crowd, snuggling into her arms if he was tired or sick with an emphatic, "I want mama dough." And even as a grown man, he and Rachel ended up building a house just a few minutes down the road from both their parents. And singing, he always was singing. He had the sweetest little voice as a boy, and when he wasn't completely goofing around as an adult, he still had a beautiful singing voice. We were born and raised going to church every Sabbath, and we all knew most of the church hymnal backwards and forwards. Adam definitely expanded his musical preferences into his teenage years and adulthood. But you could still catch him belting out hymns in the shower or humming Sabbath school songs as he went about his daily business. He was one of the most tender and compassionate little kids you'd ever seen. He loved animals. Growing up, homeschooled and in the country, we had a ton of pets, and Adam was the primary caregiver to all of them. You could always find him snuggling kittens or covered in puppies. The few times we had a litter of puppies or kittens at our house, he would find the one with the cutest face and name them Sweet Eyes. We had many Sweet Eyes. And baby humans, well, that was on a whole different level. When Claire was born, Adam was about 2 years old, and it soon became very obvious to the family this was his baby, and the rest of us were going to have to learn to deal with that. As a toddler, he would sit on the couch for hours, holding her gently while she slept and yelling at anyone who tried to take her. And when Natalie was born, almost 3 years later, it was the same story. And when his babies grew up and had their hearts broken, Adam was still there, holding them, letting them cry on his shoulder, and threatening to flatten the men that dared mess with his baby sisters.
Adam showed signs of having a very sharp and quick intellect from a young age. This, coupled with his protective nature, resulted in us having a human radar living among us. At 10 years old, he took it on himself to go around the house every single night, making sure the doors were locked, windows were shut, and unnecessary lights were off. This continued into adulthood, and even when he was just home for visits, he would make his rounds every evening. If anyone lost something, we asked Adam. He always knew where things were. Car keys, shoes, his sister's hair bows. His brain just would see and store that information till it was needed, and it blew us away. Something else you may or may not know is that Adam had a very strong sense of what was and was not aesthetically pleasing, from landscaping to decorating his house for Christmas, and even fashion, aside from him always insisting on wearing socks with his sandals. He did come by this eye for beauty honestly, with an art teacher, florist, choir teacher for a dad. Beauty, symmetry, and aesthetic were always something pointed out and appreciated as we were growing up, and this was not lost on Adam. He was brutally honest about his opinions, too, which made him an excellent shopping companion. Our very fashion-conscious Aunt Heidi would often take him on shopping trips with her when he was a kid because he would not be shy about letting her know if an outfit suited her or not. He also made sure his little sisters never left the house without a hair bow, and as they got older, gave them all kinds of unsolicited but usually accurate advice about their fashion choices. Speaking of fashion, Adam loved playing dress up. He almost couldn't help it. Yes, he had a brother, but he had more sisters, and the closest neighbors were the Whaley girls. When you live in the middle of nowhere and the majority of your companions are girls, well, let's just say Adam was as confident in a tutu or playing house as he was building weapons of mass destruction out of pear branches and hurtling down hills at breakneck speeds on his bike with Matthew. One of his favorite games to play was that he was the prince, and the neighbor girls and his sisters would all dress up and make him choose who was the prettiest princess. It may have caused a few fist fights among the girls, but he thought it was great. However, when it came time to pick out a lifelong princess, let's just say Rachel had no competition. Adam only had eyes for her. Adam and Rachel basically knew each other their entire life, and if rumors were to be believed, Rachel had a pretty decent crush on Adam pretty early on. Adam, however, was oblivious, as men often can be, and went on to graduate high school, join the Marines, and leave home for what many of us thought could be for good. But after the Marines, Adam came home, only he came home different. A lot of the light was gone in him. After some time of being lost and unsure where to go with his life, Sheriff's Academy offered him direction and purpose. Not long after he got his first job, Adam ran into Rachel again with some help from his sisters. He told them after his first date, well, she's not a teenage anymore. She's hot. And she's definitely into me. And that was that. From then on, it was Adam and Rachel. Well, at times, they drove each other crazy. They were crazier for each other. And when Adam told us he was going to marry that girl, we couldn't have been happier. She was good for him. She already felt like family, and she helped Adam come out of the dark places in his mind and back to all of us. Oh, and just so you know how big of a softie that big guy was when it came to Rachel, he insisted on making her bouquet for their wedding, and it was beautiful. We have pictures to prove it.
In case you're trying to figure out how this big puppy-loving, mommy-clinging, tutu-wearing little blondie turned into the big, strapping, intimidating man all of you know and love, I promise you that part of his personality was always just under the surface, tempered only by the fact that he grew up in a non-violent, no-guns-allowed, peace-preferring family. But just as he had inherited a love of beauty and aesthetic from our dad, he had also inherited a warrior gene from a very long line of military men, stretching all the way back to the American Revolution. Our grandfather, Sam Gibson, from whom Adam got both his middle name and good looks, lied about his age so he could join the Army Air Corps in World War II at 17. Adam's great-grandfather fought in World War I, and the legacy continues back. So while my parents may not have encouraged violent play or allowed toy weapons, sometimes nature overtakes nurture. Adam and our brother Matthew became experts at crafting their own weapons, from chewing off the edges of their toast till it looked like a gun, to crafting deadly bows and arrows out of pear branches, to creating catapults they could actually launch each other out of. But even as Adam headed straight into the Marines after high school and then into Sheriff's Academy after that, The nurture, care, and upbringing he had helped him to emerge into the kind of guy that wasn't afraid to go into the heat of a fight, but would also make the time to save a life, reunite a dog with its owner, bring a family groceries, yell Happy Father's Day through his loudspeaker, and dote shamelessly on his daughter and wife. Because deep down in his heart, he was still the soft-spoken little mama's boy who would snuggle babies for hours and make sure the doors in the house were locked. After Adam was born, our family gathered at his twins, Hope's graveside. And before laying her to rest, we sang together the hymn you heard today, Does Jesus Care? 6 weeks later, my mom took Adam to meet her grandmother, and as she was going into the house, she heard a recording of a man singing, Does Jesus Care? It was my mom's dad singing. He had died at 33 when she was only 3 years old. She had never heard the recording before, and it felt like a hug from God telling her, and now telling us that yes, he did care. He had cared when she lost her daddy at 3. He cared when our sweet Hope went to sleep in Jesus. And he cares today as my parents say goodnight to their son one last time. And as we tell our brother, we'll meet him in heaven someday when our entire family reunites at the feet of Jesus, who always has and always will care and will carry us through our darkest moments till we live with him eternally. Good night, Adam, Sam, our sunshine bright. We will wrap your Rachel and sweet Sophie Hope in love and memories until they can be wrapped once again in one of your great big amazing bear hugs. We love you, and we will see you in the morning.